The third session, 2022 Seoul International Biomedical Conference. The third session will begin now. During the third session, the topic will be Scale Up and Opportunity. The first presentation will be given by Managing Director Ted Moon from RM Global Partners. Please welcome Managing Director Ted Moon with a warm round of applause.
안녕하십니까?
Hello everyone. I am Managing Director Byung-chan Moon from RM Global Partners. We provide investment consulting service mostly focusing in New York and Israel. First, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to Seoul Metropolitan City Government and Korea Health Industry Development Institute for inviting RM Global Partners, and my deepest respect goes to CEO Hwang Mahnsoon of Korea Investment Partners and CEO Pae Jisoo and CEO Chang Minhoo. It is my great honor to be here at the third session. This is my agenda. For the next 20 minutes, I'll be talking about, first of all, macroeconomic factors affecting U.S. biotech sector. Secondly, after COVID-19, U.S.-China tensions is heightening, especially Biden administration executive order, what kind of impact it will give on a long-term basis, what implication does it give to Korea and other countries? Is there any opportunity for Korea? Let me tell you before, during the 20 minutes, I am planning to address a very gigantic agenda, but very lightly. If there is other opportunity given to me, I promise you that I will elaborate on each specific topics. Before I go into the main part of my presentation, let's look at the macroeconomic factors affecting U.S. biotech sector. As we undergo COVID-19 pandemic, there are a lot of cash flow. Thanks to the cash flow, U.S. inflation skyrocketed, and U.S. Fed is also, once again, increasing. The interest rate is likely to further increase. High-risk long-term growth companies like biotech is receiving a lot of impact in their investment. Also, the prices or monies that are spent for the clinical trials are increasing also. And there is a slowdown of economic growth, and it also affects risk tolerance of investors and pricing policies. And not only Europe and Asia, but countries around the world are suffering from weakening of their own currency, but strong US dollar. And they believe that they cannot avoid inflation. Let's look at U.S. downturn market. The new normal is occurring. Under such situation, now's the time to navigate for opportunities. Uncertainty in the U.S. healthcare VC market, which is causing increased scrutiny on cash preservation, valuation, and investment in select opportunities that could generate long-term value. The funding of the venture capital, once again, considering challenging IPO market, cross investors are taking limited participation. So 2022 up to the first half of 2023, still the impact will continue. Look at the left chart. As you can see here, it shows the raise in the first half of 2022 with the growing proportions to raise bigger about 100 million or 15.8 billion. So those are the funding. What does it mean? On the right chart, you can see that biotech IPO market are mostly closed. And VC, they believe that IPO isn't likely to happen. So they are anticipating that the crossover of the investors, given the continued challenge of the IPO market, they are turning their eyes to other investment. Now, This is the U.S. biotech average valuation by field, about 30% at the maximum, a minimum, up to 70% of the valuation disappeared. In this page, you can see summarizations of the U.S.-China tensions. Biotechnology is likely to become a war zone between the U.S. and China. U.S.-China political tensions have become particularly pronounced during the COVID-19 pandemic as supply chain disruptions affected the productions and distributions of critical drugs and vaccines. This month, on September 12, 2022, President Joe Biden signed an executive order laying out a strategy to boost biotechnology and biomanufacturing in the United States. The executive order means that it comes in growing concern on increasing China's investment in the U.S. technology sector, including biotechnology. This executive order will sharpen CPU's focus on reviewing deals. It already existed for a long time. Once again, it will increase U.S. government interagency activity, including biotechnology in all kinds of technology sector. Once again, the new executive orders was set out as the concerns are increasing in China's investment. For the CPU, for some of you who are wondering what CPU is about, I have summarized this chart. If you have any question, please let me know. What's important in this slide is that the declaration was very short, but the filing was very lengthy and in-depth review.
행정명령과
As for the administrative order, this would reduce the access of Chinese capital to the U.S. market. Could this become a window of opportunity for Korea? We need a long thought out opportunity and plan, and we need talented people to catch this opportunity. The executive orders in the United States will create more investment opportunities for Korean companies, especially in the biomedical field. However, biopharma sector, because even though there are many hurdles in the market, the situation is good. The opportunities are increasing, and there are innovative therapeutics that are being developed that should meet unmet needs. Biotech industry in the United States is leading the innovation in drug development. At this point in time, some technologies that have been neglected in the U.S. and product candidates and Korean strategic financial investors can find hidden gems in the U.S. market. As you can see in this chart, top 17 multinational biopharma companies have $1.7 trillion in their balance sheets. With this huge cash flow, they are looking for strategic partners, and they are looking for M&A opportunities. When the market is tumultuous and various as it is now, if Korean companies are interested in the U.S. market, these are the factors that they would have to be mindful of. First is to secure the opportunity, secure the cash, and build a deal team with experience and have a long-term value creation path. The valuation of the U.S. biosector market is in the correction stage, and because of various reasons, Chinese capital is going to have limited access to the U.S. biotech market. So some biotech companies in the U.S. are having difficulties in getting cash flow, so they are becoming desperate to find more deals. So over the past several months, many biotech companies and medtech companies, because of various issues, have visited us for cash flow opportunities. So we expect such opportunities to increase in the future. Of course, at different point in time, These are the cases that we have experienced, and I would like to present two cases. The first is by Handok and Genexic. Handok has been our client, counterparty for a long time. Handok was willing to acquire a company and has done a due diligence very fast. Ketotop, which was a OTC product, Handok was very interested in, and Ketotop has become a cash cow for Handok. So we have worked with Handok as their buy-side consulting company. Handok was very speedy, quick, and agile with business opportunities. Let me briefly describe this deal for you. Handok was interested in an OTC company in the US, Resolute, and Resolute has proposed investment to Handok. Resolute was having a difficulty in funding in the public market. RM Global worked with Handok to review all the 4 scientific and financial due diligence and pipeline due diligence, and the 4th asset, congenital hyperinsulinism, was in the clinical phase 2A. And Handok thought that once they reached the 2A, it's going to be a very attractive M&A deal. We carried out in-depth scientific due diligence report, and the development-based transaction investment structure was proposed to Handok, and Handok used all of its funding investment for clinical trial and acquired majority equity for this drug line. And in October 2020, Handok closed a deal with Resolute. In June of 2020, Resolute received the Rare Pediatric Disease Priority Review Voucher by FDA. And then in October 2020, Resolute closed a $41 billion private placement with leading U.S. investment firm. There has been a lot of delay in recruiting the patient because of the pandemic, but recently in phase 2A, this proved to be effective in reducing the glucose level, and in 2023, the 3rd stage of the clinical trial is expected to start. Genome&Company, Sciotto Biosciences, RM Global has consulted this M&A deal. CEO Jisoo of Genome&Company, we began working together in 2019. Until 2021, we have worked together for 2 years. The management of Genome&Company had very impressive deal signing and deal catching ability, and it has carried out combination trial with multiple multinational pharma companies, and it wanted to develop its own licensing. And microbiome companies around the world and pipelines were reviewed by Genome, and they have screened 10 companies, and they met together in JP Morgan company, and regional licensing was discussed centering around the Asia Pacific region. And there, on top of various restrictions, there was a lot of upfront development milestone cost. And because of the funding difficulties caused by COVID-19, Sciotto Biosciences have agreed with a first tranche deal. And in the first tranche, the existing investors agreed to decrease the market valuation, and Genome&Company acquired more than 50% equity, and all of its investment is going to be used for the clinical trial. Genome&Company became a major investor, equity shareholder of Saito Biosciences, and has acquired an excellent development partner in the United States. After acquiring Saito Biosciences, microbiome therapeutics increased greatly in number in the United States, and the demand for CDMO for microbiome is expected to surge, and Genome&Company executive decided to go through an M&A to create stable business, and they are trying to become a vertically integrated CDMO for microbiome. CDMO company in the US, List Lab, has more than 43 years history in cGMP manufacturing of microbiome and biotoxin operation. As for commercial manufacturing capabilities of microbiome, it had the manufacturing potential but had limited manufacturing capacity. RM Global, helping Genome&Company, has carried out due diligence for technology and finance of List Lab and CPU's filing. Because this company was classified as a key technology company, and it's one of the companies that has properly experienced the entire process of CPUs. And Genome&Company now has a CDMO company in the United States, and it can carry out various pathways for value creation. The good news is that recently, microbiome leading company, Ceres, in September this year, CDI candidate SER-109 has completed the third phase and has filed for drug approval to the FDA of the United States. And lead product has been recommended approval by a related committee. Microbiome market in the future is likely to pick up and grow exponentially. In conclusion, the global macro risk and the geopolitical tension between the U.S. and China and the U.S. heightened review of China investment will create a strategic window of opportunity for Korean strategic and financial investors. It's a great opportunity to look at overlooked product candidates and technologies in the United States. So I have reviewed 2 cases today, and in spite of this high volatility in the market, we can look at some factors that can create value, securing cash and forming a deal team that has experience in transactions. Third, opportunity. Fourth is to create value from a long-term perspective. Prepared mindset is needed. Downturns are cyclical, and biotech fundamentals still remain robust. Translating an opportunity to execution requires strategic vision and highly experienced team. RM Global Partners will be an excellent execution partner for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. In this post-pandemic market downturn, we can still manage to find great window of opportunity. Thank you very much, Mr. Moon. And second,
let me introduce the next speaker. CEO Jisoo Pae from Genome&Company will make a presentation under the title of Global Cooperation Strategy of Korean Companies. Please welcome CEO Jisoo
Pae. 안녕하세요.
Hello everyone. I am CEO Jisoo Pae from Genome&Company. Thank you very much for inviting me to the Seoul International Biomedical Conference 22. I wonder why my company was invited. Well, my company, Genome&Company, is not that big. It's been about a year and 8 months ever since my company was established.
And we have done a couple of M&A, so I would like to share our M&A experience with you today. Well, it wasn't something as grand as global M&A strategy, but we just saw the opportunity and took it as they came, and we worked together with our investors and tried to make the best investment decision. So I wanted to share that experience with you. Our company was established in 2015 for microbiome development. As of now, we employ 100 R&D and business staff, and microbiome and antibody drugs. These are two pathways for our company. And three things I would like to talk about. The first is the microbiome anti-cancer drug. Merck, Pfizer, MSD, these are our partners for microbiome. We had a lot of challenges in working with our global partners, and I would like to talk about that experience. And Mr. Moon from RM Global Partners has talked about Cyto Bioscience and CDMO, List Labs, located in San Jose, the United States. So I will talk about these three things. First, I will show you our pipeline. On top is GEN001, which is anti-cancer drug for solid cancers. We are working with Germany's Merck and the US Pfizer. And as for gastric cancers, we are also working with Merck and Pfizer. And there is another R&D approval that we received, and we are working with MSD for that. Microbiome. When you go to seminar related to microbiome, there are four major areas. First is GI, so inflammatory disease like Crohn's disease, digestive organ disease. And then there is immuno-oncology and gut-brain axis, CNS area, and skin. So there are four areas where microbiome is targeting. We thought that digestive tract, GI area was already suffering from fierce competition. So we were looking at other opportunities, and we decided to focus on oncology. Microbiome and oncology development means that we are going to touch the immuno-oncology area. So microbiome turned into immuno-oncology drugs. Many companies are working on that around the world, but they have been working with PD1 or PD2 combination with the immuno-oncology drugs of big pharmas. So among the multinational big pharmas, there are 5 of them who have immuno-oncology: Merck, MSD, BMS, Roche, AstraZeneca. From microbiome companies' perspective, it is a fierce competition to be partners with these global pharmas. On the right-hand chart, this will show you this Vedanta is in Boston, 4D Pharma is in London, Synologic is in Boston. Most of the micro pharmas are located in Boston, France. These traditional hubs of pharmaceutical development. We are the only company from Asia. So when we entered this competition, we were kind of neglected, but we continuously contacted them for 2 years, and we met them in Bio USA, and we presented them with the lab test that they wanted. And Merck, Pfizer, avelumab combination, they chose us as their partner. And MSD rejected us at first. They worked with Abello, but they had a trouble and they dropped that study. 1 year later, MSD contacted us again and proposed to work together. So this was really a gratifying and a lot of worthwhile efforts. We never gave up. In spite of the initial rejection, we kept coming out with better and better data. And that proved to be effective after all. Second, Sciotto Bioscience acquisition. Before we got listed on Kosdaq, we were on Konex. And before we decided to list in Kosdaq, we thought long and hard about where we were. We only had one pipeline, even though it was doing well, so we wanted to add one more pipeline to our portfolio. From the first stage to the preclinical study area, it would take 3 years at least, and 10 billion won at least. So we thought it might be too late to start now. So we thought about buying this from outside. We discussed that with Handok, and we looked for acquisition opportunities, and we reviewed and contacted 50 microbiome companies around the world, and we emailed them, and they all responded with such arrogance. They said they would only give sales license for the Korean market, and they wanted 10 billion won upfront investment. And I said, no way. And we contacted 50 companies initially, and then later it came down to 20 companies. And some companies have made a lot of progress, almost ready for clinical trial. And JP Morgan has arranged us to meet with about 20 companies, and these 20 companies presented to us in a hotel. So we've heard from 20 great microbiome companies around the world. We compare their valuation and technology. And one of the companies that was a strong runner was Sciotto Bioscience. I used to be a psychiatrist before I went into this business. And Sciotto Biosciences was located in Indianapolis. Eli Lilly, when I was a resident in psychiatry, Eli Lilly had 50% market share in psychiatric drugs. And Eli Lilly, several years ago, changed their portfolio, and they went into metabolic disease. And CNS scientists left Eli Lilly in large numbers, and then these companies, these scientists have started their own venture company. And I talked to them and decided to acquire Sciotto Biosciences. Autism. This is an autism drug trying to treat autism with microbiome. I will skip the detailed scientific studies, but because of the popularity of this drama, this weird lawyer Woo Young-woo has increased our level of interest for autistic spectrum disorders. Autistic people, well, savant, they're actually small in number. Most of the autistic children have low intelligence as well as low social intelligence. The ADHD or antidepressants are most widely used to treat autistic disorders. And the core symptoms of autistic people, like lack of social skills, are not being treated. The treatment is not for the fundamental cause. They're just trying to mitigate the symptoms. So there is a huge unmet need for autistic spectrum disorders. But many journals or articles talk about oxytocin. This is a hormone of love, hormone of attachment. And many people point out oxytocin as an ultimate solution for autism. But oxytocin has very short half-life. And orally taken oxytocin could not be delivered to human brain. But our company is microbiome company. If we can be taken as microbiome, and if we can release oxytocin in a scientific pathway, there was a mechanism we could tap into for overcoming that barrier. It was an excellent story, and then we liked the company and we acquired it. So we looked at the animal test data. After acquisition, starting June of last year to June of this year, we carried out clinical tests. The first stage, we recruited autistic patients. In phase 1, we are supposed to look at stability and safety, and we wanted to look at the efficacy as well. And we recruited the targets. The data proved to be wonderful. There was treatment difference, 4, 5, 6. There was a big difference between the placebo group and the controlled group. The top 6 data was beyond 1 standard deviation. These were excellent results. 1 standard deviation in psychiatry in terms of IQ, 100 is the average, then 1 deviation would be 15 and 2 deviation would be 30. So if you are 130 in IQ, you are a genius. 1 standard deviation difference means your IQ is going up from 100 to 115. So top 6% showed major difference in the control group. And it was a very encouraging result for our company. And we thought that we have made the right decision to invest in the company. In Bio USA, we are working with and talking to biopharmas that are interested in autism spectrum. When I visited Indianapolis, there were several questions that I wanted to find answer to. Let's say we invested 7 billion won and we can get 70% of the equity. So we began wondering, why is it so cheap when its technology is so excellent? It only had 7 employees, and I looked at the data, and our number of employees at that time was 40. And with 40 employees, we could not come up with this kind of data properly. And I wondered, how can 7 employees come up with such wonderful data? I brought these 2 questions to Indianapolis. To my first question, when I had 2 full-day conference with them. In the evening, I had dinner with them, and I told them, I feel great today. But I told them, you might not be happy to hear this, but I want to say this anyway. I feel like I have reviewed 20 companies introduced to us by JP Morgan. So I know how much valuation you can get with a certain level of technology. If you were located in Boston and San Francisco, your valuation would be at least 30 billion won. But being in Indianapolis, they have been marginalized and off the radar of major investors in the United States. And I pointed that out, and they said, Jisoo, thank you for saying that. And they said that they are great in R&D, but getting the capital investment has been such a major challenge for them. So we had a great time drinking and eating when we said we are brothers. Second, how did 7 employees come up with this kind of technology? When I visited them, I visited their animal testing lab. You know, when we look at animal test models for autism, we have one model in Hwang and one in Seoul National University. And the professors from those universities said they bought this rat model from Jackson Lab trying to create autism model, but they haven't tested it. They would list at least 6 months of pilot before they can fully set this up. So two centers had one model each. But when I visited Indianapolis, and there is this McKinsey lab, and I went there. They had 30 psychiatric animal models. When I was a psychiatric resident, I had to study a lot of animal model data, and I just memorized the data without seeing the test itself. And after hearing from the lab, I was reminded of those data. I realized that you don't have to do this internally. If we can contract this out, they have 30 animal models. It's almost like a factory of tests, and it's a routine job for them, and they're great at it. So I realized this is the benefit of open innovation. Boston, San Francisco are great, but what about Indianapolis? In the center of the middle area of the US, they are undervalued, but they have great hospitals in Indianapolis. Such science team, if you can discover them, you could actually get a lot of value for your money. How much time do I have left? And CDMO is a very important bottleneck in microbiome industry. So we have decided to visit List Labs in San Jose. Before we acquired this company, we have visited 7 CDMO companies around the world, and we've done extensive negotiation with one of them. It was a great CDMO, but at the last minute, they said they like everything, but they cannot sell. They said Genome cannot meet the customers and cannot sell directly to customers. So we began to hesitate, and that's when we found out List Labs. Microbiome is about most of the microbiome factories were located in Australia, France, Switzerland, or the Netherlands. These countries with advanced dairy industries. Such countries have a lot of CDMO specialized in food, but microbiome is about drugs that requires FDA approval in the United States. So that's why we turned to San Jose and ended up buying List Labs. It's a small company. After we bought this company, we wanted to expand this. And we looked for empty lots or empty plants in San Jose area. Scioto company, which was located in Indianapolis, when they found out that we are trying to expand manufacturing capacity in San Jose, they began negotiating with the Indianapolis state government, and they came up with this deal. In a city in Indianapolis called Fishers, for an area of 17.59 acres, which is a huge space. And they would give this land to us for free. And 30% of the labor cost will be subsidized by them. But Indianapolis was such a remote area. We were skeptical at first, but the city would buy the land for us, and they are looking for companies to invest. And Bayer, AstraZeneca, Boehringer, Ingelheim were coming into this area. So we thought this could be a good opportunity. So we visited there in June, and we met with the mayor of Fishers, and we started the construction of our plant. Our position is in microbiome business. We are going to develop new drugs for autism, for immuno-oncology, and we are also going to do CDMO business, upstream and downstream, so that we can build a lasting business model that can lead to revenue generation. So we want to be positioned as a top-level company in microbiome industry. Thank you very much.
네, 발표해
Thank you very much, CEO Jisoo of Genome&Company. Next, we will move on to the last presentation of this session. CEO Minhoo of Humanscape will talk about sustainable growth of digital healthcare startups. Please welcome CEO Chang with a big hand.
네, 안녕하세요.
Hello everyone, I'm CEO Chang Minhoo from Humanscape. My presentation is about sustainable growth of digital healthcare startups and what kind of journey we have taken. You just heard the presentation from Managing Director Ted Moon from RM Global Partners. I learned a lot, and also CEO Jisoo for both of their outstanding presentation. The company's mission is as follows. Humanscape aims to help people live happier life through a lifestyle or life cycle-based direct-to-consumer vertical app delivering primary care, disease preventions, and personalized health care. And B2C is our main focus, which is quite tough. And especially for the rare disease suffering patients, we provide a mobile service. And about 35,000 rare disease patients' parents are using this service. Mommy Talk service, about 540,000 pregnant women in Korea are using this service. Before I talk about sustainable development as a startup company, there are major strategies that we use. We focus on killer feature. Nothing more, nothing less, just killer features or killer applications. There are numerous players. Most of them, they try to implement the strategy coming up with one major app. And they are so busy and occupied with coming up with one application. But what does consumer really need? They need just one killer features. And if they target well, when they come up with this, definitely it can expand the usage. It can attract more consumers. Of course, the service structure could be different, but therapeutics probably they have the limitations of retaining the customers, and it imposes hurdles. So once again, we wanted to grasp killer features. And if we grasp killer features, once again, we can identify the unmet needs. So Leonard service killer features, what we identified was the unmet needs. The number and the types of the rare disease are a lot, and also the number of the patients are huge. But even if FDA approves, merely 5% of the patients are available to get access to this disease. When there are not much drugs, and after 3 to 4 years they are diagnosed with the rare disease, they ended up hearing from the doctors that there are no solutions. And we understand these difficulties, and we heard from the patients that their answers that I got from the hospital is there are no solutions. So what they do is they rely on health supplements, and then their prognosis get worse and worse. That's what we found. And when you look at that, when we developed the drugs, of course, my company is not a pharma company. We don't develop a new drug, but we want to stick to the patients. We would like to acquire information and manage their journey so that their health condition will not worsen. So what we focus on is if there are any drugs that can cure their disease or improve their situation, then what kind of information can we give? We provide killer features. That's how we study. So basically, the patients can get information not from the doctors but from our mobile service. Of course, these services are available, but this is a site not for the patients who, I mean, the medical journals or the academic society, they provide information. Especially, there are a lot of international journals that talk about the rare disease. But from those sites, without any medical terminology, knowledge, patients cannot learn anything. So our service make patients easier to understand, get more information, and overall, the rare disease patients literacy improvement is our mission. And Leonard service, what we try to do is not only we provide information, but also we gather informations of the patients, especially in case of the rare disease. Unlike other disease, more than anything else, the registry of the patients are segmented, not only globally, but inside Korea. All the information scattered around. You know, the informations are stored at the hospitals, insurance, companies or each individual, but through the Leonode platform, we gather this data and provide it so that it can create value. And we gather the data, of course, based on the informed consent from the patients. We gather the information. We make sure to protect their data. It wasn't easy to gather the patient's information. The greatest resistance is the reliability, the trust. They cannot trust Humanscape. They said, how can we trust your company? I mean, the medical information, very sensitive information, and how are you going to utilize our information? There were huge challenge about the usage of the information that they submit. So when they provide the information to us, we make sure that who is going to use your information, we write down on the blockchain, and then smart chain, each patient can check how their own informations are circulated and used. And step by step, we gain trust. About 35,000 patients' record we gathered and we use this. When we kick off our service, there were 17 diseases. But now, in most of the more than 1,000 different rare disease, we gather that, and Railnote provides different services now. And in operating the Railnote service, we found another business point. Of course, the 70% of the rare disease, it break out during the child stage, and especially including the genetic rare disease. Also, there are SMA or other disease, and more than 35% of the infant mortality happens. So screening at an early age is critical because 70% of the genetic rare disease start during the childhood. Even if they look healthy, we need to gather their data, and then we need to screen the prognosis and their disease. So here comes our application. We designed Mommy Talk. Once again, we need to find the killer talk. What kind of life the pregnant woman spends, what kind of journey the pregnant woman goes by. We pay closer attention, and this is what we found. And the area that we found is that when the women got pregnant, they tried to check whether they are pregnant or not. So they visit the hospital and then they undergo ultrasound checking. And then the image that are recorded, they can see that with their family members. They can always download it. And this is like entertainment needs. We found that there's huge needs for that. And in Korea, in the past, there were companies who take photo of that as time goes by. Some of the hospitals recorded and then stored in the CD-ROM, and then they provided. And we found out that 95% of the pregnant women in Korea receive ultrasound recording service. If you're not Korean, then you are exempted. But other than that, all Korean pregnant women receive that. We are late joiner, but as I mentioned, about 85% of the market share is what we have. We created this service. In the beginning, when they check they are pregnant, based on the hospital's guidance, they get the information that they can use the Mommy Talk. So the pregnant woman use Mommy Talk platform, and after they give birth, They write down all the necessary health conditions over their children and babies in a very detailed manner. And new users acquire leveraging our killer feature, Mommy Talk. And inside the hospital and outside the hospital, they receive care of their babies. For example, if the pregnant woman has the pregnancy diabetes, then together with a pharma company like Daewoo, we provide virtual care. We are expanding our service feature. As I mentioned before, the ultrasound imaging is available in Mommy Talk, and also all the informations of the health of the babies can be written here, and the babies' vaccines and checkup schedules are also included. And even if it's not related with the health of the babies, if they would like to purchase additional product for their babies, we provide seamless service for the children. So during the second session, someone talked about the difficulty of providing evidence in the B2C and provide features for the B2C is extremely difficult. But here, the most important thing is that we don't take very serious approach, but rather, depending on the person's life expectancy, we try to identify unmet needs and then provide functions as a solutions. And then, depending on the people's life cycle, we approach as a life cycle. And that's the directions that we are taking. So up until July, about 530,000 pregnant women are subscribing our service, and all of our services are directly connected with the GY hospitals in Korea, and not only pregnant women, but also delivery hospitals, and also the GY hospitals are our clients. When the pregnant women confirms their pregnancy every month, out of 25,000, around 20 pregnant women organically join our service upon the recommendation by the hospital. So even though we provide B2C service, acquiring one new customer is very expensive. We call this customer acquisition. And one customer join the platform, and then no matter how much life scale up you do, if it doesn't create additional acquisition, it doesn't make sense. But we are working based on the partnership with the hospitals. So seamlessly, the pregnant women download this Mommy Talk and then join. So we can expand the customers' base continuously. And at the same time, not only in Korea, but Indonesia, we have advanced into the market a couple of years ago. Until last year, there was no response. But starting from this year, there was an explosive growth. So as of July and as of today, about 50,000 pregnant women are subscribing this Mommy Talk. About 160 hospitals and clinics are using our service. So these are the references that I can share you. And we have only a few months left, but we plan to advance into the US market and Vietnam as well. So so-called the Southeast Asia, like Vietnam or Indonesia, they believe that something is used in Korea, or the reference that are selected by the Korean hospitals are great strength. But in the US market, Korean reference did not work well. So advancing into the US market was quite difficult, but in doing business, there are some learning lessons that we found out. We should have worked with the hospitals and pharma companies, and we try to create a reference. And continuously, we are striving to achieve growth. Strategically, we need to make investment, but we also received some investment, which was very helpful in developing our company. And as a strategic investor, Kakao and GC, Green Cross was our investor. And from the Green Cross, the investment, there were numerous reasons, but we are working for the Southeast Asian market for the prenatal. And in Korea, the diagnostic market is quite red oceans, but Southeast Asian market, DTC, is also a green market, a blue ocean yet. So B2C platform collaborating with a company like us could be very meaningful, and that really worked well, so we attracted investment from GC. In case of Kakao, the target platform that we have acquired, the users, the KakaoTalk platform can be connected to that. So finance or insurance or other service can also be provided. So the continuity of our business model can be continued. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sustainable growth for digital healthcare startups. Thank you for sharing your insight with us. And last panel discussion will be moderated by CEO Mahnsoon of Korea Investment Partners. And Mr. Ted Moon, Mr. Pae, Mr. Chang, please come up to the stage. Please welcome them back to the stage with a big hand. Hello. The speakers have been very concise and precise, so we have saved the time, caught up with time greatly, thanks to their agility. And I think the presentations for this session were really interesting, probably the most interesting presentations I've heard recently. And we will discuss a couple of points. I think it was around February when they planned this kind of conference in February. The capital market was still doing very well, and they came out with very ambitious plan and never expected September of the same year to suffer greatly. But September is here, and Mr. Moon traveled here all the way from New York. Some people say there's an opportunity in crisis, but it sounds really cruel. Well, you could say variability or volatility is an opportunity. So we are joined by Mr. Moon, Mr. Pae, Mr. Chang. So I would like to ask just a couple of questions to each speaker. Well, it seems like you were kind of showing off the areas that you have been strong at previously, like large companies. When the price goes down, they could look for attractively valued assets in the US and Europe. Well, large enterprises say they have a lot of cash, but from their point of view, the challenge is where they're going to find great investment assets. So discovery of great asset is their biggest area of interest. So, Mr. Moon, if a large Korean enterprise wants to be investing in the US bio investment, what should they do? That is a very dangerous way of thinking. I would like to say a few things. For open, you have to be in the open innovation ecosystem, and that means you have to work together with experts of the industry. Of course, you also have to build an experienced team. And that means you're going to work with leading VC companies for CVC. You have to have that experience. And networking is important. You have to do all of that to get a sense of the industry, and that takes time. You have to be desperate when you're looking for an investment. Having cash does not make you desperate. You have to really go back to your mission statement, why you need to invest in biopharma industry. Without that sense of desperation, well, money will not get you far. That is the characteristics of biomedical industry. You have kind of encouraged people to work with Korean partners or RM Global partners to be exact. RM Global, I'm sure there will be more opportunities to work with more companies, so you might want to hire more employees in advance. And Mr. Jisoo, you were kind of bragging about what kind of companies you have bought, how much equity you have, and you probably were the only Korean man who were happy when President Biden announced the executive order. Well, it sounds, if we look at the conclusion of the deal, it might look as if it was a piece of cake, but what kind of difficulties or challenges did you experience in negotiating this kind of deals? And many biotech companies already received venture capital funding, and they are now planning to go to the US. What kind of preparation do you think they need to have? Well, difficulties in making the deal. When I first established microbiome company, got the investment, and when I was discussing with the venture capital company, they encouraged me to visit BioS, and I said I will visit when I am ready, but they said that you should visit there now even though you're not fully ready. It's going to be like a pre-test, not the real test. But at first, when I participated in the Bio-US, I knew I wasn't fluent in English. I was kind of under a lot of stress. But after having several meetings with potential partners, and whenever I met with these people, you end up meeting other people through them. And they become a nodule for your next networking. So you keep expanding your network. And if you keep doing that for a couple of years, you would have great network. I have a great network in microbiome industry. And many of the companies that are under stress, they want to work with us and they propose partnership to us. Now we have a very close network. And I think it's very important to build on your network. And as for the challenges that I experienced, at first, it seems like they have their own network, like it was a league of their own. But I had to penetrate my way into this network. One of the effective measures was we got listed on Connex, and when we did that, we were valued at 40 billion won, and then it went straight up to 200 billion. Whenever we asked our US counterparty to meet, if you search for our company in Bloomberg, they would see that our market valuation is huge, and they began meeting us thinking that we are a great Asian company. Our valuation went up for many reasons. So I'm not sure whether it was chicken or egg issue, but when our valuation went up, we began to grow in content as well. And we were really helped by this booming market in Korea. Not all companies do so well on Connex. Some people are reluctant to go with Connex, but Connex can give you an opportunity. And one more thing, you should go on business travels a lot. And to Mr. Chang Minhoo from Humanscape.
Rare Note and Mommy Talk, I really enjoy that. From company's point of view, they might think, well, we have Rare Note, we have Mommy Talks, but what their questions could be, I don't think I can persuade Green Cross. How can we persuade Kakao? I mean, Kakao, they don't do any investment in biotechnology. So how did you manage to do that? I don't know if I should use the terminology of SI, or how did you attract investment from them? Can you share your know-how? Well, first of all, getting investment from Kakao, it became a huge topic. Only last year, for the first time, we had a meeting with the Kakao, and only part of last year, we advanced into 14 countries, to Indonesia and Korea. On a two-track basis, we began to provide service. Right after the service index-wise, there was explosive growth. And internally, this model can work not only in Korea, but if we customize the service local by local, definitely there's a huge potential in the process of scaling up. Strategically, we could get help, and also B2C, the digital healthcare area. And in a way, it could be casual service we can start, and then we attract the consumers, and we try to explore who can share the same view. At that time, Kakao launched healthcare service. They had a serious concerns and interest in advancing into healthcare business. And since we are very good at B2C service, and Kakao achieved growth based on the B2C, that's why our interests coincided. And I guess that's our know-how. And that's the merits how we have attracted investment from Kakao. So did Kakao contact you first, or did you contact them? Well, precisely speaking, we couldn't contact Kakao. We ended up connecting. And there were ways, we tried to explore ways how we can be connected to Kakao. We tried first. And it was introducing my company. And then Kakao approached us. Of course, you have used the investment agency. That's how you approach them. Okay. Well, if you'd like to get investment, make sure to use the investment company. Well, there's nothing much for me to say, but since this was the first time that I visited Seoul Metropolitan City Hall, and I didn't know that this conference hall is such a great place. And if you are from venture capital, or if you are from private company, or if you'd like to ask a favor of you, please use this opportunity. To anybody studying with Mr. Chang, what do you want Seoul Metropolitan City government to do, or VC? Well, I think I have to be very careful. Not only venture capital, but in the overall capital market is in doldrum stage, and we are feeling it in our skins. And we have with us today everyone, including CEO Mahnsoon, and there must be some funding provided continuously. Only then startup can establish its status. So VC or government, or so Metropolitan City government, they have their own role. When they take part in as LP, they have their own roles. And I hope that all of these interested parties can continue to make investment on a continual basis. And secondly, startup also, they need to take time to reflect their past and also substantiate their growth. And company like mine, so-called vanity metrics, they need to measure that using KPI. And then we focus very much in evaluating the company. But I guess now's the time to take another leap into the future and coming up with a more continuous model. So we need to make a joint effort. Now is the time to do that.
업계에 있는 사람.
As a member of the VC industry, we would boldly keep on investing. And Mayor Oh Se-hoon of Seoul Metropolitan Government, we are keep asking him to come out with funding resources. So, Mr. Pae, these days, as I said, we are investing in a plant in the US. And I believe that Korean bio companies to go global if they're going to be globally successful. And I've talked to some government officials about how they can support us. And they are interested in how many jobs we are going to create in Korea. And I told them I'm going to create jobs in the US, and they said I'm not interested. They're not interested. So they are Korean government. The main point that they are interested in is how many jobs will be created in Korea. I know where they're coming from, but from the bio industry's perspective, we have to go global to become successful. So I hope the government can change their perspective in giving us the support. The Korean government officials, of course, we can earn some money in the foreign market and then come back and create jobs in Korea. Or Genome&Company can pay a huge amount of money in tax. And I personally agree with him. Of course, creating jobs in Korea is important, but that's not all. If you keep on exporting without importing, that's not sustainable. So, in order to attract investment to Korea, Korean companies need to invest overseas. That's the way things work in this world. And Mr. Moon, Mr. Pae, Mr. Hwang, as you have mentioned, we need to change the way we think. Experienced experts, they need to visit Korea more often. And then Korean people should go overseas, working in overseas branches, and be mixed with people with experience so that they can grow into global talents to overcome or maximize our capital or resources in Korea. If the goal is to create jobs only in Korea, we will be taking reverse steps by using the theory of competition. And in order to, I'm talking about biotech talents in Korea. We need to enhance their capability and competency. And then we need to give them opportunities to compete with global talents. And then you will be able to hire more of them. And you can also reduce tax for expat workers. So you can also create better environment for creating jobs. And especially companies that are going to the largest market in the world, the US market. And you can help those companies regardless of how many jobs they create in Korea, because if they generate revenue overseas, they will eventually come back to Korea. You can create a win-win ecosystem because they will eventually bring in the cash or talented people back to Korea. That is a very big thing that we need now. I think you are so eloquent. Well, this is my first time in Seoul City Hall. And Mayor, please keep on working with Basel, other Swiss cities, and also with the US. And if Seoul Metropolitan Government can give us the initial support, that would be great. My strong motto of life is that I shouldn't be stealing your dinner time, so I would like to close now. Mr. Chang from Humanscape and Mr. Genome&Company, they have been very frank and open-minded in sharing this kind of information with us. So please give them a big round of applause.